Have you ever wondered what this continent was like before anyone called it America? Before maps, before fences, before history was written down. This land was already full of stories. Rivers curved through endless forest. Smoke rose from quiet villages. And millions of people lived here, guided not by conquest or ownership, but by balance. They lived close to the rivers because water meant everything. It carried fish, cooled the air, fed the soil, and connected one community to the next. Along these rivers, homes stood in gentle circles, made from the forest itself. Young saplings bent into arches, walls covered in bark and mats of reeds, roofs sealed tight with clay and grass. Each home breathed with the seasons, warm in winter, cool in summer, open to the wind, strong against the rain. When the fires burned at dawn, the smoke rose through openings in the roof and disappeared into the light of morning. Every day began the same way, quietly, patiently. There was no alarm, no schedule, only the rhythm of the world. The first sound was the crack of wood feeding flame, then the low murmur of voices, then laughter. Work didn't start. It simply continued. Some walked to the fields, their feet still damp with dew. There they tended the crops that had sustained their ancestors for centuries: corn, beans, and squash. The three sisters. Each grew differently, yet each relied on the others. The beans climbed the corn, the squash shaded the soil, and together they renewed the ground that fed them. It was not farming for profit. It was cooperation written into the earth itself. Others followed the river to fish. Canoes carved from single trees glided through morning mist, paddles dipping without sound. Fish traps built from willow guided the current into narrow openings. Nets of woven fibre drifted just below the surface. When they pulled them in, the sunlight flashed across the silver scales like sparks from a fire. They caught enough to feed the people, never more, never wasteful. The fish were cleaned at the water's edge, the meat smoked over slow-burning embers. The bones went back to the soil, and the cycle began again. In the forests nearby, hunting parties moved through the shadows. Their bows were made of hickory, their arrows tipped with flint, their eyes trained on every sound. They read the ground like text, the shape of a hoofprint, the bend of a blade of grass, the smell of a trail. When the moment came, one arrow flew, clean and sure. There was no cheering, no celebration, only gratitude. They thanked the spirit of the animal because the act of taking life demanded respect. The deer became meat for the fire, hide for clothing, bone for tools, sinew for thread. Nothing wasted, nothing forgotten. Back in the village, life was movement. Corn was ground between heavy stones into fine meal, the rhythm of grinding steady as a heartbeat. Clay was shaped into bowls and jars, baked hard in open fires until it rang like thin metal. Baskets of reeds and cane were woven to carry grain, herbs, and fish. Every household worked together. Children learned by watching, their hands repeating what the older ones did. Twisting rope, carrying water, shaping clay. There were no lessons written down, but knowledge filled every action. The air smelled of smoke, earth, and maize. Dogs walked the pathways between homes, alert but calm. Part of the family like anyone else. Their bark warned of strangers or animals. Their warmth guarded against cold. At midday, the people rested in patches of shade. Meals were shared in circles. Roasted fish, beans stewed with herbs, cornbread cooked on stones. There were no ranks at the table, only gratitude. The land provided, and the people honored it by taking only what they needed. When work resumed, it was quiet and unhurried. Some patched roofs or mended fishing nets. Others tanned hides, rubbing oil and smoke into the leather until it softened. Clothing came from the animals they hunted. Strong, warm, and made by hand. Each garment was personal. Each carried the mark of the maker. The people knew the land like a friend. They could tell the season by the smell of the air, the coming of rain by the flight of birds. They knew which bark healed fever, which roots soothed pain, which leaves warned of poison. Healing was not mystery, it was memory. Every generation added to what was known, and those lessons were passed through story, song, and repetition. As the day stretched long, canoes returned from the river carrying more than fish. They carried shells from distant coasts, copper from far northern lakes, coloured stones from mountains unseen. Trade was constant, not for wealth, but for connection. Through trade came friendship, marriage, alliance, and knowledge. A shell worn around the neck was proof not of riches, but of a story that had travelled hundreds of miles. When the sun sank low, the air cooled, and the smell of cooking drifted once again through the village. Smoke curled upward in slow blue threads. Twisting with the sound of laughter, children played at the edge of the clearing, their shouts echoing between the trees. Elders sat together near the fire, speaking softly about the day's work or the weather to come. There was no hurry to end the day. Time was not counted, it was felt. At night, the sky opened wide. Without the glow of cities, the stars shone like fire scattered across black water. Each constellation had a name and a story. The people watched them to know when to plant, when to harvest, when to prepare for cold. The heavens were a calendar, a library, and a home for memory. The fires burned low. Dogs settled beside doorways. Children fell asleep wrapped in furs, listening to the murmur of voices fading into the crackle of wood. Tomorrow would bring the same work. Fishing, mending, planting, building, and the same quiet satisfaction that came from balance. Before this land was called America, this was life, a steady rhythm between people and the earth. A relationship built not on control, but on care. The land gave, and they gave back, and because of that, life endured. The houses stood close enough that the sound of one fire could be heard from the next. Each home was a world of its own, yet no one truly lived alone. Children ran freely from one doorway to another, carrying handfuls of cornmeal or bits of wood for the hearths. An elder might stop them to tie a loose strap or tell a short story that carried a lesson inside it like a seed. The village was one extended family. Inside, the air was warm and heavy with the scent of smoke, earth and food. Bundles of herbs hung drying from the rafters. Stone tools and woven baskets rested near the wall, each with its place. The fire at the centre never went out. Its coals were carried from home to home if a spark died. Fire meant life. It cooked food, shaped clay, cured hides, and kept the darkness away. The people measured strength not by muscle or wealth, but by what someone offered to others. Those who fed the hungry or kept peace between neighbours were honoured more than any warrior. Leadership was earned through patience and generosity. There were voices to guide, not to command. When decisions had to be made, the people gathered in a circle and spoke until agreement was reached. The goal was harmony, not victory. Night often ended with storytelling. Firelight flickered across faces as words carried the listeners backward in time. How the rivers were born, how the first corn was planted, why the crows turned black. The stories taught ethics and memory together. They were the library of a people who wrote not with ink, but with breath. When a storyteller paused, the silence meant reflection. not emptiness. In that silence, truth settled. To live here was to live inside that circle of exchange, between people, between earth and sky, between past and present. Everything had purpose, and everything belonged. Everything belonged, and everything returned. The people understood that ownership was a brief illusion. Land could not be possessed. It could only be cared for. A field, a riverbank, a grove of trees, each was borrowed from the generations yet to come. To take more than needed was to steal from one's own descendants. That belief guided every act of work and harvest. When spring returned, planting began. Hands pressed kernels of corn into soft earth, then beans beside them, then squash to cover the soil. The pattern was ancient, tested through centuries. The fields were small but many, each family tending its own and helping others when time allowed. Rain meant celebration, drought meant patience and prayer. They sang while planting so the ground would remember their voices and respond with generosity. Summer was abundance. The rivers filled, the woods thickened. Berries ripened in the underbrush. Children gathered them in bark baskets while adults repaired canoes or built new storage pits. These pits were lined with woven mats and clay, sealed with moss to keep food cool and dry. Inside them lay the security of the future. Corn, beans, dried fish, cured meat, nuts, and herbs. Survival was not a test of strength, but of preparation. Autumn carried the scent of smoke and harvest. The fields turned gold. Ears of corn were plucked, braided, and hung to dry from the rafters. Feasts marked the end of the growing season. They gave thanks, not to a single god, but to the living world around them, the soil, the wind, the rain. For them, gratitude was not ritual, it was responsibility. When winter approached, the rhythm shifted inward, the forests grew silent, animals migrated, and snow muffled the sound of work. Hunting parties followed tracks through frost, returning with deer and turkey. Inside the homes, fires burned all day. Hands stayed busy sewing, carving, repairing tools. Stories lengthened. Wisdom passed more easily in the dark months. Elders told how the people once learned to survive the great cold, how sharing had saved them when food was thin. Each telling renewed the vow that no one would be left hungry. Healing, too, belonged to this cycle. Every plant, every stone, every animal carried medicine. The healers, often women or those who lived between genders, knew where to find what the body needed. Willow bark eased pain, mint cooled fever, yarrow stopped bleeding. Cedar purified air and spirit. Smoke and song accompanied the treatments, not as superstition, but as focus and comfort. The healer addressed both body and soul, because health was balance. They believed that if one person suffered, the whole village's harmony trembled. Knowledge was everywhere. It lived in observation, the angle of sun on a leaf, the color of clouds before rain, the pattern of ice on a pond. It lived in experiment, which clay fired hardest, which fiber wove strongest, which seeds thrived near water. Each generation added to what the last had learned. Without written words, they memorized through repetition, through song, through story. The past was not something gone. It was alive in the present. Art and adornment turned usefulness into beauty. Clothing of deerskin bore painted lines, beads of bone or shell. Some designs marked achievements. Others protected the wearer in spirit pottery, carried swirling motifs of rivers, sun, and growth. These patterns were more than decoration. They were conversation with the unseen. They reminded the maker of their place inside the whole. Music accompanied work, worship, and rest. The drum was heartbeat, steady and grounding. The flute called to distance, imitating wind or bird. Rattles filled the air like rain. When the people sang together, the sound joined their breath to the rhythm of the world. They believed harmony in music reflected harmony in life. Rituals marked transition: birth, naming, adulthood, partnership, death. At a birth, midwives used warm water, herbs and song. The newborn was introduced to fire, water and earth. Each element offered a few words of welcome. Partnerships were simple: promises spoken before family, gifts exchanged, sometimes broken when love or circumstance required. Freedom and duty balanced like two wings of the same bird. Death was not an ending, but a crossing. Bodies were washed, wrapped in soft hides, placed with tools, food or ornaments. For the journey ahead, graves lay near the village, close enough that the living could greet the dead in memory. Mourning hair was cut short, paint turned faces dark in respect. After a season, colour and laughter returned. The dead were gone, but not absent. Their names were spoken so they would stay part of the circle. Over the centuries, the people built mounds of earth that rose above the plains. Some held the remains of ancestors, others were ceremonial platforms where gatherings took place. From the top, one could see the sweep of fields, forests and rivers, the world that sustained them. These places reminded everyone that they belonged to time as well as place. The society was layered but not rigid. Elders held knowledge, skilled hunters or farmers earned respect. Healers, artisans and mediators formed the village's spine. In larger towns, councils guided decisions. Sometimes a single leader spoke for the group, chosen for wisdom rather than wealth. Leadership could pass from man to woman, from one clan to another, depending on who carried the qualities the moment required. Power was service. Among them lived those who walked between identities, people who carried both masculine and feminine spirits. They were valued for insight, often serving as healers or ceremonial guides. The people saw them as bridges, not exceptions. Difference strengthened the whole. They taught that every being contained many spirits, and peace came from recognizing them all. The relationship with nature was constant and practical. They burned sections of forest to renew growth and invite game. They rotated fields, leaving land to rest. They followed migrations without exhausting herds. They spoke to rivers before fishing and to trees before felling them. To outsiders, it might seem ritual. To them, it was etiquette. Respect for neighbors who happened to be non-human. Children grew within that worldview. They played games that trained aim, memory, and cooperation. They learned patience through fishing, courage through hunting, empathy through caring for elders. Education had no walls. The world itself was the classroom, and every mistake was a teacher. Visitors from other regions came often. They brought different languages, but shared gestures, trade, and hospitality. Between distant cultures, plains, forests, coasts, there was communication, not isolation. They celebrated similarities. The same stars overhead, the same gratitude for rain, the same drumbeat underfoot. This web of connection stretched across the continent long before anyone from across the ocean imagined it existed. When conflict arose, the goal was restoration, not punishment. A wronged family received gifts or labor to repair loss. Only in rare moments did violence appear. And even then, peace followed quickly, because survival demanded cooperation. To live together meant to forgive together. As night fell and the fires glowed again across the villages of the valley, The people looked up at the same sky their ancestors had known. They saw movement in the constellations and read stories in their paths. One cluster marked the hunters, another the gatherers, another the trail of souls returning to the sky world. They believed that those lights were the fires of the old ones, guiding and watching from above. The fire at the heart of the village was more than heat and light. It was memory. Every spark carried the stories of those who had come before. When people gathered around it, they were not simply warming their hands, they were tending to history itself. Elders spoke softly, the words measured like steps on sacred ground around them. Faces glowed in orange light, young, old, listening. Outside, the forest breathed. The river whispered beyond the dark. Here, in the circle of flame and shadow, the people reminded one another of who they were and why they lived as they did. Their elder's voice told that all things held spirit, not as symbol, but as truth. Stone, tree, bird, and person shared the same breath of creation. To live rightly was to recognize that breath and never break it. The fire was proof of that balance. Fed, it gave light. Neglected, it vanished. So, too, with life. They said the earth was the body of their mother and the sky her breath. The rivers were her veins, the mountains her bones. When you took from her, you owed her thanks. That was the oldest law, older than language itself. They rode the horses quietly, guiding them with knees and voice more than reins. Each animal knew the rhythm of the people, the slow, deliberate pace across the plain, the quick bursts of speed when herds moved. The riders did not force the animal's will, they matched it, leaning with its movement, breathing with its breath. The bond between horse and rider was not mastery, but conversation. In return for care, the horses carried them farther than feet alone could go, their strength an extension of the people's own. As the day faded, the sky opened wide above the riders. The first stars flickered in the east, then multiplied until the heavens turned to silver. They slowed their horses and watched in silence. The stars were more than beauty, they were instruction. Patterns in their paths told when the herd would move, when rivers would flood, when frost would come. The slow wheel of constellations marked the seasons more faithfully than any carved calendar.
Hold him close. We will weather this.
Some stars pointed home. Others traced the journey of souls returning to the sky world. They said the stars were the campfires of their ancestors, burning in the distance to light the travelers below. By studying those fires, they learned direction. By honoring them, they remembered where they came from. Every night spent under that vast turning sky reminded them that they were part of a story far greater than themselves. One written across both earth and heaven. One that never truly ended. They rode the horses quietly, guiding them with knees and voice more than reins. Each animal knew the rhythm of the people, the slow, deliberate pace across the plain, the quick bursts of speed when herds moved. The riders did not force the animal's will, they matched it, leaning with its movement, breathing with its breath. The bond between horse and rider was not mastery, but conversation. In return for care, the horses carried them farther than feet alone could go, their strength an extension of the people's own.
We travel as the sun rises, following the old paths to new hunting grounds.
The river is swift here. Watch the current.
We will be careful, Elder.
The river provides us with strength for the path ahead.
Gently, like this. See the tiny hairs on the leaves?
Our journey tomorrow will take us to the western plains, where the buffalo will be plentiful.
They understood that wisdom was not in knowing, but in remembering. Soon the talk turned toward the hunt. Not tomorrow's hunt, but the eternal one, the relationship between hunter and animal. The elders' hands traced the air, showing how the bison once covered the plains like a dark, moving sea. To hunt them was to join that sea, to move with it rather than against it. It was said that the first hunters had learned their craft by watching the wolves, how they circled, how they waited, how they chose only what was needed. To hunt without need was to invite hunger of another kind, the hunger of imbalance. As the elder spoke, embers rose and drifted upward like stars. They carried the stories into the night, joining the fires of the ancestors above. The listeners sat still, the glow painting their faces with patience. The stars were more than beauty, they were instruction. Patterns in their paths told when the herd would move, when rivers would flood, when frost would come. The slow wheel of constellations marked the seasons more faithfully than any carved calendar. Some stars pointed home, others traced the journey of souls returning to the sky world. They said the stars were the campfires of their ancestors, burning in the distance to light the travelers below. By studying those fires, they learned direction. By honoring them, they remembered where they came from. Every night spent under that vast turning sky reminded them that they were part of a story far greater than themselves. One written across both earth and heaven. One that never truly ended.
Stay low. And so the spirit of the bear watches over our people to this day.
Morning breaks over the plain. A line of hunters rides out from the village, bows across their backs, spears in hand. The air is cold enough to see breath. The grass moves in slow waves. They follow the tracks where the herd passed in the night. Deep prints pressed into soft earth. Each step is measured. No one speaks. They are entering a conversation that has lasted since the beginning. From the crest of a hill, the herd appears, hundreds of bison grazing, steam rising from their nostrils. The hunters wait for wind, for distance, for the right moment when effort becomes mercy. The signal comes with a lifted hand. They move, bows draw, arrows fly. The sound is brief, almost delicate, against the weight of thundered hooves. When the dust settles, silence returns. They walk among the fallen animals with reverence, touching each one, whispering words of thanks. There is no triumph here, only acknowledgement. Each life taken means many lives continued.
Faster now.
A gift from the Great Spirit. We begin.
These are good for the winter. And these berries are so sweet.
Way to travel.
We always move with the sun.
Yes, and the land provides.
Almost there.
The water feels so good.
we need.
These are finally made. A good trade.
Yes!
We'll offer shelter from the wind.
The cottonwoods will hold the snow.
He said, I will travel to the mountains.
Oh, he's so silly.
Look, new grass! I found it! Woof, woof. Got him! Run, run, run!
The old ones say, the stars are our ancestors watching over us.
Stakes tightly.
Stretch the hide taut.
Mind the knots, young one.
It's good for easing aches.
Thank you, Elder.
I found some berries.
Try to keep it steady. You are doing well. Our ancestors tell of a time when the world was new, and spirits walked among us.
Our ancestors roamed these lands, their hearts filled with courage and reverence for the spirit.
Follow closely.
To the wind, my child, and see the stories it whispers. The stars above hold.
Quiet. Stay with your loads.
The ground is firm here.
Watch the river breaks.
Now,
Check the lashings.
lift the poles clear.
Work quickly now.
Pause.
Where the land swells and dips. And that is how the stars came to be. Our ancestors watching over us.
This bent grass, it tells us which way the herd went. Hear our prayers, guide our hunt, and bless these lands.
Thanks to the great bison, for it has given its life,
and its gifts sustain us.
Strong and swift. A truly fine animal. May it serve your band well.
Strong.
Yes, Father.
Provide us with sustenance for the winter.
Eye on the target, young one. This is our home, and we must care for it.
This one helps with fever, and it is a good friend to our bodies.
The year of the hungry moon, when the buffalo were scarce and the snow lay deep.
Offers good shelter and plenty of wood.
And the river access looks clear for water.
Yes, the wind will break here. This is a good place.
He is a marvel of engineering, cool in the summer.
Coyote, with a belly full of mischief, tried to outwit the wise old owl. He thought he was so clever.
This, my son. The tension must be just right.
Great Spirit, hear our prayers. Our voices rise in unity.
Bison through this pass.
The south-facing slopes will have the first wild turnips.
I remember a blizzard closing that pass.
We walk in beauty with all our relations.
Good. See how the leaves look like this?
I found one. Look what I found.
Quickly, but with respect for the flames.
Stronger now.
Look at the new berries.
So much green.
We will live.
This is the life.
Keep them going.
Yes, push, push! Son.
Yes, Father.
They're not empty-handed. Praise to the warriors. Praise for their courage.
Thanks for their safe return.
Excellent. So many berries this year.
Mama, look how many I found.
With clear minds and open hearts.
The harmony of our people is paramount.
May the Great Spirit bless this hunt.
Good.
We welcome you.
May your hunting be fruitful.
Great Spirit.
you cross a wide river when there are no trees large enough to make a dugout canoe.
Eagle holds the spirit of our ancestors, the stories of our people, and the path of our future.
O Great Spirit, hear our voices, guide our path.
Move, now! Prepare the horses.
Few, we must attack.
Their metal is strong. We must trade.
We must observe and seek wisdom.
Look! We found it! Yes!
Fine blades. This is a strong horse for your people.
Chief!
Hurrah!
A stunning display of communal engineering.
Friend, we are almost there.
Good dog, almost there.
You can do it, little one.
Faster! Yes, yes, yes!
Packed up quickly. This travois is so much easier.
Thank you, Chief. Are ready for honor and glory!
Is shrinking, and they are becoming part of a global economy. With all
This one feels ready. Is everything secure? Yes, everything is ready.
Oh, move with the wind, and so must we.
Come back soon.
Bye-bye. Dada.
spirit of our ancestors guides us.
Yes, it does.
The spirit of our ancestors guides us through the changing seasons.
The bison for many suns, following their mighty footsteps across the plains.